In this video I want to cover free machine embroidery. In the last one we covered threading up, we covered lowering the feed dog or covering it with a plate, and we covered putting the darning foot on. So now you lower the darning foot to begin stitching. You have the width set to 0. The length, it doesn't matter what it's set to, because as you can see, when I begin stitching, if I don't move the fabric, it's not going to move at all. It'll just stitch on the spot. If I begin to move it quite slowly, I get a short length of stitch, and if I move it faster, the stitch length lengthens. You'll notice that I'm holding it quite firmly at the sides, and I prefer this to using a hoop. Now the beauty of free machining is, as well as going forwards, I can go backwards, I can go to the side, and I can go back again. I also want you to notice that I'm not turning the fabric at all. So I can actually stitch in circles without turning the fabric. This is a picture of the sample I just stitched. You can see the pink top thread on the left just shows a little of the darker bottom thread coming through, and similarly on the back you can just about see some of the pink top thread. That means the tension's about right. I just want to talk a bit more about the top tension, because it's really important you get this right from the start. To adjust it you'll have to look at your own manual, but there are a couple of things that you can do to make life a bit easier. You can use the same thread on the top and the bobbin, and you can use different coloured threads on the top and the bobbin. In that way you'll see that the tension's right. And you will need to adjust the tension for different fabrics that you use. So, if I show you first of all how the tension should be, and this is a side view of the fabric. This is your top thread that loops underneath each time you take a stitch. This is your bobbin thread that loops each time you take a stitch, and they'll overlap at the fabric. The first problem you might have is if you have your top tension too tight and it lies along the top and pulls that bobbin thread through. So you get loops of the bobbin thread on the top of the fabric. To solve this problem, you need to loosen the top tension. Now if you loosen it too much, you'll have the opposite problem, where there isn't enough tension in the top thread to pull that bobbin thread through, and so the bobbin thread will lie along the back of the fabric. So you need to play about with that using your machine's manual until you get it right. You may find that when you begin stitching that the machine runs a little bit too fast for you. On some machines you can adjust the speed, and it's well worth having a look in your manual to see if you can do that for your machine. You can see here that I'm stitching on newspaper. In fact, I've got several layers. I think this is quite a nice way to begin, because as well as saving precious fabric, you can find an image or some text and follow the line. You may also decide you want to stitch without any thread in the machine. So in this video we've begun to do some free machining and we've looked at the top tension. We've also looked at zigzag stitch and straight stitch and how you turn the fabric and set the stitch length. Now you really need to do some practice, but do begin by using the most friendly fabrics, a heavy or a medium weight cotton or calico, before you move on to something lighter. You really need to get your confidence before you start stitching with light or stretchy fabrics.